the first time she actually was talking about her birthday in the shelter, she found that these kids couldn't relate. And I remember her coming back home and at our dinner table, relentlessly, but why? Why don't they have a birthday party like me? Why can't a fairy princess? I mean, she was very young. But it was going on in her mind, and she was relentless about, but why? At 7, I don't think she could fathom that those parents were not thinking about a birthday party. They're trying to survive.
Coming to you straight from Fremont, California, this is the Fremont Podcast, dedicated to telling the stories of the past and present of the people and places of the city of Fremont, one conversation at a time.
Hello, Fremont. This is Julianne.
This is Lisa.
You are listening to episode 77 of the Fremont Podcast.
Now, here's your host, Ricky B.
What made you interested initially to take her to the homeless shelters?
Well, I come originally from a third world country.
Okay.
And, these children are first generation, but I always felt that we've led such a privileged life, right? Throwing a lavish birthday party, with an entertainer, gazillion gifts, if 20 people come, they come get 40 gifts. It's such a luxury. Yeah. So as I was growing up, I remember my father would take me to a leprosy colony, which was considered like untouchable people in India. And he would take us primarily because these people didn't even get exposed to people or normal food or cooking environment. And that kind of inspired me in my adulthood. And I had vowed when I had children old enough, I would do my share of introducing them to the other side of the world, people who don't even have a room to call their own. So my older one was perhaps 6.5, 7 when I started taking her. And I would just watch her. She took to it like a duck to, water. And then this younger one insisted, like, I need to go too. So she was quite young. I think she recalls 7. I recall probably even younger.
Okay.
She'd insist in going. And though she couldn't even reach up to the counter, she'd be putting her hand up there. It was actually very encouraging to the other moms there that I was bringing kids this young. But today I look back and it paid off because now service comes naturally to them.
Yeah.
At that time, I was taking them.
Wow.
Now they are involved themselves.
Was it a little bit of a? I mean, how was it for you? I know that you said that you visited a leper colony when you were a child, and that was kind of an eye-opening, kind of an introduction to looking at people who are in difficult and unfortunate circumstances. Then coming to the U.S. and seeing homeless shelters, like what was it like for you to kind of like take the first step to go to the homeless shelters here for the first time?
For me, it was a continuation of what I've always seen as a child. We as a family were very privileged in India, but very deeply involved in different aspects of uplifting the community.
Yeah.
And at that time, I didn't know it was such a big deal, actually. We were quite naive. When I came here, of course, our homeless shelters here are way better than a third world country.
Yeah.
But as I went to school, I'm a clinical child psychologist by education. To me, what deeply stings is the fact that emotional aspect that the younger ones that have no control on their lives are impacted with. So from the beginning, even when, my kids were younger, as a mom, the biggest thing that always worried me, what are these kids thinking? What are they going through life? They have no control. And so my whole goal was, talking to my friends with children, bringing them in, bringing my girls, waking them up. We used to go at 6 a.m. in the morning. The biggest thing was, what can we do? It's a drop in the ocean to make a difference in someone's life.
Wow. So I'm with Tanvi, is that how you say it? Tanvi and Seema, and we're discussing No Birthday Left Behind. Tanvi, was the idea of birthdays your idea, or was there something significant behind birthdays or birthday celebrations that made you want to focus on birthdays?
Yeah. Well, it was basically,
how like a spark in conversation that I had with the homeless shelter children. I was talking about my recent birthday that was coming up, and I was sharing my excitement and all the things that my mom was bringing to my birthday, like a princess and fairies and bubbles and magic and all the pizza and cake, and basically every friend in the entire Bay Area invited. And so I think it was more of the excitement of that. And I realized also that growing up as a child, those are my favorite moments. Every year it was my one birthday every single year that I would look forward to. And going back and forth with my parents when discussing like how these children are growing up, they explained to me that their parents may not have the financial stability to actually pay for these things. And I realized talking with these children that they didn't understand the concept of one. And I just wanted to give something that was my favorite part of growing up, like that special memory that I had every year. I wanted them to be able to have it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you find, I think in people in difficult situations like that, do you find that some of them even have a hard time remembering their birthday, or do you find that that is a special thing that is in their mind? I just know of some people that grow up in certain situations that they're like, I'm not even sure when my birthday is, or they have no recollection of even celebrating their birthday. Have you found situations like that?
Well, it was the fact that these children didn't understand that their friends could all come in one place and they could have their name written on a birthday cake, and they could have presents. And so to be able to give that, if they're growing up in hardships, then at least they can remember that one year that they had a birthday from No Birthday Left Behind. We were able to give them that memory and give them that like normal concept of a birthday party.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I think the first time she actually was talking about her birthday in the shelter, she found that these kids couldn't relate. And I remember her coming back home and at our dinner table, relentlessly, but why? Why don't they have a birthday party like me? Why can't a fairy princess? I mean, she was very young, but it was going on in her mind, and she was relentless about, but why? At 7, I don't think she could fathom that those parents were not thinking about a birthday party.
Wow. Yeah.
They're trying to survive.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible. So, Tanvi, when did you start? When did No Birthday Left Behind start? When was it? When was the timeline for the idea, and then when did you actually start it as an organization?
Yeah. Well, I always loved volunteering, and I always loved going to the homeless shelter. I loved volunteering. It was always a fun experience of giving back to me, and I loved doing it with my family and my friends. And it was around my 8th grade summer where I was talking about, I realized finally that these kids didn't have birthday parties, but what was stopping me from giving that experience to them? And I decided in my 8th grade summer, I would go to that homeless shelter that I would been going to every Sunday at 6 a.m. Why don't I just go and throw a birthday party for a child who has a birthday there? And it was sort of this concept of an experimental birthday party where the shelter nominated the child who was having a birthday coming up. And I got pizza and cake. I made presents and goodie bags for all the children coming. And I also kind of transformed that homeless shelter kids room, which had old toys and old books, and I transformed it with balloons and decorations to make it assemble into a birthday party experience. And what happened was, at that party, all the other children in the shelter who had also attended the birthday party kept asking me when theirs was coming up, and I thought I would do this just a one-time thing, but
Right.
all the other children in the shelter also wanted their birthday celebrated. And I realized that if I can really make this an ongoing thing, then I could celebrate more and more homeless children's birthdays.
That's really, really cool. So when did it become an organization?
That took a long time. It was started off as just me and my parents, and my parents helping me fund it. But I wanted to do more shelters, and I wanted to expand across the Bay Area. I then looked out for high school volunteers. I asked my friends to help do face painting and stuff, but I need more help and needed more donations. And so it finally became an official 501c3 about 2 years later at the end of my sophomore year.
Wow.
And that's when it really helped.
Sophomore in high school, right? Yeah. Wow, that's cool. That's very cool. So I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I was just saying that that's what actually helped me get vendors like pizza and cake. And before that, it was hard for these vendors to even give me donations as just a kid who was just throwing birthday parties in a shelter, which was just a strange concept to them.
Yeah, did you found people getting on board with it after that though?
Yeah, initially it was very hard to get people on board. I would sometimes have a cake donation. I would sometimes have pizza donated, but mostly it was either being funded through donations or through the help of like my parents. And so to be able to continue this, I really needed like national vendors to come support me so that I always had balloons, I always had pizza, I always had cake.
That's cool. That's cool. And then we were talking about this earlier. You made national news, right?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your national news experience. You were on CBS Good Morning America, or what?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was actually in school one day when my parents told me that Gavin Newsom, NBC Bay Area, reached out to me. And that was already a crazy experience that our local Bay Area news producer wanted to come to a birthday party and film the whole shelter experience and what I was giving to the children. Yeah. And that was an amazing segment called Bay Area Proud. And once that happened, CBS Evening News, NBC Nightly News started to reach out to me. And after that, I don't know how this happened, but Good Morning America reached out to me, which was an unbelievable experience.
Wow, that's awesome. We'll be right back. You can hear the rest of this conversation in just a moment. Are you looking to buy or sell a home in Fremont or the surrounding areas? Look no further than Petrocelli Homes Realty Group. With almost 2 decades of experience, this family-owned brokerage is an expert in the local real estate market. Jennifer treats everyone like family, and with her patience, knowledge, and excellent communication skills, she helps her clients make smart real estate decisions. If you're thinking of making a move, reach out to Jennifer Petrocelli today to learn more about how she can help you achieve your real estate goals. And now, back to our conversation.
Yeah, as parents, we were very concerned, right? But we saw how serious she was. I mean, she just blossomed from a shy girl who wanted to test waters, and the positive response she got. I mean, I would accompany her because she was a minor, but I would see kids racing to meet her. I mean, she would pick up kids. She had no inhibitions, and that kind of warmed me and my husband. Her older sister, all 3 of us were like jumping in to help her. We honestly, as a parent, I didn't think how serious she was. So, but then when it really got to the point that she was continuing relentlessly, that's when we as parents helped register a 501c. There was paperwork, there's legal fees involved.
So much work, yeah.
But it made the organizations, like the Abode Board, for example, they thought she's a minor. They were not taking her seriously. So those steps really helped solidify her goal in front of these. Life Moves, for example. It's a very big organization funded by companies like Google.
Yeah.
They didn't have that service.
Yeah.
But those are the organizations, they suddenly sat up and said, this child garnering local volunteer effort, going
That's
pretty
cool.
far. And there was a turning point when a child was being taken seriously. And it was actually very uplifting even as adult parents.
That's
because
awesome.
Sometimes, small thing can make a difference.
They can, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you make, anything like this, any kind of volunteer efforts, things when you're doing good for the community, little things can go a long way. And both for the help of the organization and the service of the organization, what they're doing for people. That's really cool. So became a 501c3 when you were a sophomore. And so what has happened since then? How has the organization grown? What are you doing now?
Yeah. So at that point, when it became a 501c3, my goal was to expand to as many shelters in the Bay Area. But ever since being on Good Morning America and that national news platform really saw so much interest from around the world, which I didn't expect to even do and even expect to even expand there. But because of all that interest, I was like, well, if there's people interested, why not really start it in that area? And so since then, we made a manual playbook to help people follow follow and create their own chapters in their states. And so we nominated people within the state who had an interest, and they basically have a backbone team of volunteers in the area that they want to help throw the party with. And these people, we lead on the back support, but we basically help send supplies, and we send the playbook, we answer questions so that people can start No Birthday Left Behind chapters in their area as well.
Wow. How many chapters are there out there? Do you know?
Yeah, so there's about 24 chapters.
Okay.
There are actually 24 shelters, not chapters. There are 10 chapters. One is not working so well, so I would say 9 functional chapters.
Okay, but they function in different shelters.
In different states,
all across the country.
Wow.
She wrote a very detailed playbook, which is her experience from like step by minutia, like granular minutia. How do you secure a vendor pro bono? Like something like that, right? Because this is 100% volunteer-led organization, zero funding. And, very excited. Yeah. Miami is serving 3 of the biggest shelters in South Miami.
That's awesome.
Boston has Children's Roxbury Center, one of the biggest shelters. There are months we have 30 birthdays in 1 month. So it's just the work has exploded.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wow.
With the small seed of thought.
Wow. How many shelters are you personally involved with here in the Bay Area?
Well, since I'm in college studying, I can't throw the birthday parties anymore, but I can still help with the back-end office support.
Yeah.
But I miss going back in person and being able to throw them. But
how many have you been involved with in the Bay Area over the course of your time doing this?
Yeah, I've been involved with the San Jose shelters and the Fremont shelters.
Okay,
so
that's
about 4.
awesome. Very cool.
Even Hayward, Fesco as well, yeah.
Have you worked with, there's some homeless organizations around here as well. Have you worked with some of those as well?
Yeah, so actually it's not necessarily the words easier, but it's easier when we're able to partner with an organization, because then we can serve all the shelters that they have in the Bay Area. For example, Abode has a chain of shelters, Life Moves, Fesco, what's the Home First. But they have basically like a chain of shelters around the Bay Area, which is, so it's easier to partner with. Yeah.
Okay. So you're in college now?
Yes.
Okay. And so I'm curious, like in your world, like I know you as the girl that started No Birthday Left Behind, right? Did you have dreams and aspirations to do something else with your life? Or does this help give definition to what you're going to do? Like when you think of your life in 3, 5, 10 years from now, what do you envision yourself doing?
Well, I think that No Birthday Left Behind was always helping my love for children come in the way. I loved playing with children. I loved bringing smiles to them. So I think it satisfied that, that hobby, that passion that I really wanted to be able to play with them. And I wanted that source in my life. And it did help. It did lead me to my first career path that I wanted to do, which was be a pediatrician. Okay. But it actually, what I realized, it did help me realize that I had a love for business. And so now I'm trying to figure out how to combine my love for science and business at the moment. But it turns out No Birthday Left Behind really helped me get that experience and those skills that I needed to help start a business, and taught me a lot of things that I don't think many high schoolers can learn from anything.
Wow. That's awesome. I love the fact that, you're in college now, but I've had on the podcast probably, I think 4 or 5 other high schoolers that are either involved in something big on their own, a nonprofit. Most of them are doing nonprofit stuff, but I think it's so inspiring to see people like yourself who at a young age are willing to look beyond your own comfort and look beyond your own in this case, you kind of almost took your comfort as a challenge to say, there are people that don't get to experience this, and I don't want to be part of that elite society that that experiences my joy, my comfort and other people don't have that. I just think that's really, really inspiring. What are some of the things that you've maybe learned about yourself in all of this? Like, what are some of the things that you find that help you understand yourself and the way that you interact with the community?
Public speaking, I think.
Oh yeah, that's true. I
That's
think
the biggest one. I, as a parent, could see. I mean, you can talk to it.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Tell me a little. What have you seen as
Well,
in her?
Well, she was a very shy child growing up. You know, she had a hyperactive older sister, which she's kind of led by her, right? Which most happens with most younger siblings.
When you have a hyperactive older sibling, the other one just kind of sits and watches.
Yeah, and I just, as a parent, you know, I saw this child who would love to play with the children. She actually would conduct activities at these birthday parties, but she wasn't a public speaker. She actually shell-shocked her father with how beautifully she spoke to Gavin Newsom, with like minimal preparation, coming home from a test at school, and there was no looking back. She has really blossomed into a very strong speaker. I think she walks away with that as the biggest skill, where she's no fear of public speaking.
Yeah. What do you think?
No, I actually am thinking more about those interviews, and I sometimes don't even remember what I'm saying. But when I watch them back, I'm like, well, that was pretty good, and I think I think it definitely helps in life for other things too. I'm never shy or nervous in like doing other things for college or for job interviews as well. I'm not shy anymore because of those experiences.
Yeah, that's cool.
And you're doing nonprofit work even in college, which is
What else are you doing?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm also part of another nonprofit called Blueprints for Pangea, where we help reallocate unused and excess medical supplies from hospitals to other third world countries as well.
Wow. As you interact with people who are in a situation where they're not housed, right? What are some of the things that you have learned about our society, maybe even about our community? What are some of the things that might surprise people who aren't engaged in the homeless situation? Like, what are some, and I'm not saying that people are ignorant about the reality of homelessness, but I'm just curious, like, what are some of the things that you have experienced in the years that you've worked in the homeless shelters that might help inform our community regarding homelessness?
Yeah. Well, I got to see how the children were living firsthand, which was really depressing to see, because you people, when they go into the homeless shelter, they're not really allowed to go past into the rooms. You're allowed in the kitchen area or in the main area. And so if you pass by these rooms, you don't realize that these families of sometimes over 6 people are living in this one cramped room with no window, barely any light, and there's no color in the room. It's basically a dull room. There's a shared bed, and there's just stone cold walls, and it's just really sad to see. But besides that, you also see how the children don't have, when I go to my room at home, it's bright, it's colorful, there's a bed, there's blankets, there's also a window, but there's also a mass amount of toys, my backpack, books to read, brand new things, and I can't even spot a single backpack in these like kids' rooms. And not only that, but because there's so much homelessness in the Bay Area in general, there's also a lot of kids that are a part of it that don't really choose to be in this situation. And these things that they play with, they're actually all used because they're all donations. And I think one thing that maybe people could bring this out to, we all often donate, things to the homelessness. Maybe we should donate more brand new things rather than use things that we have in our home, because these children deserve the same amount that we do.
Great. That's great. Seema, what have you learned, or what do you think from spending time in the homeless shelters? What would you say would be something that would help our city, our society, know how to view that situation or to interact with that situation more?
One thing I feel really sad about is that most people have about some kind of a stigma or stereotype in their mind about these homeless people. They are just normal people like us, just really down on their luck. There's nothing to be afraid of them. Most people, you go to a Nextdoor app and you'll see people saying so much negative stuff, making assumptions that they are people who are going to steal and rob you. That's generalizing to a very bad degree. That was my biggest realization. They're normal people. They 9 out of 10 of them in these transitional housing situations are working hard to brush up their skills and really trying to get back into the job market. They're not happy to be there. So I think our society needs to get over these perceptions. She was a minor, so I was very cognizant of that and never left her alone. But I had the opportunity to observe what wonderful people work in these shelters. They're not being paid very well.
Sure.
But they're not being treated very well either. We haul off a bag of clothes to donate to the shelter. Do we ever bother to wash them and iron them? And then give it off thinking this is going to be, used by a child or a needy single mom. So I think those are some observations really changed our lives. Our family is just real. We think 3 times before we donate something.
So tell me what a typical birthday party looks like. Like, I know that you probably started off just by buying pizza and balloons and stuff like that, but you have a playbook that you wrote, right? Does that help like give prescriptions for how to do birthday parties, or what does a birthday party look like if I were to go to one?
Well, if you were to go to one, if you were to volunteer or even take part in the birthday, what we would do is we would call the volunteers about an hour and a half beforehand. And we would take all these decorations, streamers, balloons, and confetti and all these things. And we would basically transform the homeless shelter to look like a birthday party. And before that as well, actually, let me start from the beginning. What we do beforehand is about 2 weeks before a birthday party, we email a shelter and we ask them, is there a child in your shelter who has a birthday coming up? If there is, if the answer is yes, we ask for just the name of the child and the age of their birthday and maybe something that they love. It could be the color pink or Hello Kitty, anything that can help us, gear to how we want to decorate the party, what cake to bring, and maybe an activity of what we should do. And that the age also helps with that. And the name of the child helps so that when we order a cake, we can put their personalized name on that cake as well. And then when the birthday party rolls around, they have submitted this form already, the shelter has, and we, with our volunteers' help, we help decorate this shelter into a birthday party experience. And the volunteers help bring in the cake. They help with goodie bags that are already pre-made beforehand from our volunteers. And we have usually a birthday theme happening for the child, depending on their age and their gender. And we make sure that the shelter tells all the kids that are in the homeless shelter that day to also come and participate in the birthday. And sometimes our high school volunteers or a third-party vendor, like a clown or a magician, will help perform 30 minutes for free at the birthday party.
Awesome.
Or these high school volunteers will do a face painting or a craft or something to help, do that birthday party experience. And we also have pizza. We give the cake, we give the goodie bags, and we sing them happy birthday. And that's pretty much how the birthday party experience entails. And then
that's awesome.
We tried to do piñata as well. We found some amazing piñata vendors who are donating.
That's cool.
Yeah, because that's an activity, that...
Oh, yeah. Everyone loves that.
Yeah. It's at
all ages.
Yeah. So we try to do that in summer months.
That's awesome. So so do you have a special memory of a birthday that you've done? Like, is there a birthday that you've done for a child that just really stands out to you as being a special one, and why?
Yeah, there is one birthday that really stuck out to me. It was this girl who absolutely would not let go of me, and she was in love with everything that I was doing, and she would just keep running up to me and she would just jump on me like a koala. And it was that feeling of, this girl really thinks I'm her best friend. After, maybe 45 minutes of that birthday party, she was hanging on to me like a koala. And it's it's really just making those like friendships over so quickly, and they trust you so quickly, which is so crazy because this is the first time they're meeting me as well. And I'm sure they're also not feeling the proudest of the situation that they're into. So to be able to let me give them that experience too is amazing. Yeah,
I think we think a lot about the perception that we have of homeless people. Like you were saying, like we get a stigma in our mind of who these people are and why they're in their situation and how I need to distance myself. But sometimes we need to put ourselves in their place and think about the way that they view the world around them. There's things about us that are maybe scary for them as well, and I think that's something. What you're doing is you're kind of bridging a gap there that is important for them to feel that somebody does care about them, that people just aren't out to make their life worse, and I think that's really, really important. Well, what are some of the things that you hope to do? I know you said you have a career path ahead of you pursuing business and you're looking at pediatrics, I guess. What is it that you hope to see happen with No Birthday Left Behind in the future?
Well, one, I do hope that as soon as I leave college, I'm able to physically go in person for a birthday party again and be able to throw them firsthand. But honestly, my overall mission and goal is to be able to reach more homeless shelter children and be able to bring more smiles to them. And through this, I hope to create like a national network of shelters and vendors and volunteers and be able to establish that so that we can, create more chapters and create more shelters one day so that we can try to reach as many homeless children as possible.
That's cool. Seema, you were talking about the fact that nobody would take her seriously on this. And I'm just curious, was there ever a time, Tanvi, where you thought like nothing's ever going to come of this, or you're just kind of are just doing this because you think it's a good idea, but you really didn't think it was going to go anywhere? It would just be like a little thing. I mean, what was it like starting out? And then how much of it was like a childish ambition, and like right now you're talking about this could be the next big thing. Like 5 years from now, it could be something that's nationally recognized by everyone. Like, what was the transition for you, like from maybe the initial stages of starting to where you are now?
Well, when I was trying to first get donations for the party, I was going to the Fremont Hub a lot because they have a chain of like lots of party things there. And so my dad would take me frequently, and I would go from store to store with the binder, and I would basically pitch them my ideas with like laminated sheets of a PowerPoint that I had made. And a lot of these vendors were like, this is a child, she's asking for free things, why would we give it to her? Then they would ask me for proof, for pictures, and I can't take pictures at the shelter because I can't take pictures of the kids. Yeah. So I had no proof. And not only that, but I wasn't associated with a national organization like Girl Scouts or YMCA, or I wasn't a 501c3 nonprofit. So I simply was a child with a binder, and it was very hopeless. And it was still meaning that I still wanted to be able to throw those parties. So oftentimes my parents would help me out, but I couldn't expand it, or I couldn't do it to more shelters. I could really do it as much as I could.
It seems like we have a lot of serious-minded kids in our community. What are some recommendations that you would give to, say, another high schooler who is looking to do something good in the community like that, and maybe they just have a binder? What would you recommend them doing to kind of get started with their ideas?
I think at the end of the day, nothing's impossible, nothing's unrealistic. And if you find like a good idea that you want to do, it's good to always try it and start it off. I mean, I started off with an experimental birthday party, and I didn't know one day it would lead to a 501c3. I really was doing it for fun and to give back. But you aren't able to see the power in things unless you really start it. And I think sometimes as a child, it's like daunting, like you don't know business or you don't know law and you don't know other things that go behind it, but nobody's not trying to help you secure your passion one day. And I'm sure, my parents helped me, and so did my sister with the legal and business side of things, but that didn't make it impossible. I'm sure there's lots of people in our community who want to help out. And so I think like always just being able to do something that you're passionate about, and you never know who helps you or who branches onto your idea with you.
I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is it hard work? Was it easy to do what you did, or was it hard work?
It was more fun work than hard work. Okay. Maybe more hard work for my parents to be able to always let me go into this environment and being able to also just make it, it's more hard work to sustain and keep it going because we sometimes lose volunteers, or we can't keep a shelter running, or we don't have enough donations. But it's not hard work to do the concept, if that makes sense. It's just hard work to sustain it. And so I think that's just our biggest challenge in the next coming years. That's why our goal for No Birthday Left Behind is to really establish that national network of shelters and volunteers so that we can keep it sustained in the future. And then after keeping it sustained, we keep growing it as well. Yeah,
that's cool. Seema, did you have any?
Yeah, I think she's underrating. It was hard work. She was in this school that was, hell bent on giving 5 AP tests every Thursday, and there was a boat shelter only wanted a birthday party on Wednesday. And, she would talk to them, can we move it to a Friday? They said, no, that's our playtime. That's when so she's forgotten that it was hard. She had to cram up her homework, take that birthday box. And, yes, we drove her. Yes, we picked up the pizza for her. But those days, school days were hard. And I remember in her freshman and sophomore year, she had like 3 volunteers. So she was managing 3 to 4 very active shelters, once a month party. And you were doing the Fremont, that clinic in Willow Glen. I can't remember that clinic. My Friends. She was doing the My Friends pediatric clinic. It was brutal those days because she had to juggle, keep up her grades. I was not compromising on that. So looking back, she remembers the fun, but as a parent, I remember that for a teenager to be able to juggle all that was hard.
I definitely made some sacrifices when we had to throw birthday parties on the weekends and you have to choose one thing or another.
That's right. Well, I think that one of the things that as I'm listening to you talk, and it kind of goes with some of the questions that I just asked a few minutes ago, I think there's a difference. I think there's a place where like children have huge imaginations, and oftentimes they believe in things that adults would say, that's ridiculous. And but they believe that things are possible that we would never allow or that we would never pursue ourselves. And I think that one of the things that's inspiring to me about you and about other teenagers, high schoolers that are pursuing nonprofits to help the community is that I think that they truly believe that something that other people think is impossible to do or ridiculous to do, end up pursuing it, working hard, actually making it happen. And then here we are, and you have a nationally recognized organization that's making the difference in people that are living 4,000 miles away from here, And I just think that that's phenomenal. Like, I do think I think that we as a society need to sometimes pay attention to the young kids and the things that they dream of, the things that they see, the birthdays that the kids that they see without birthday celebrations. And we need to take advantage. We need to open up our eyes and take a look at those things the way that you did when you were young. I think that that's really, really great. So, well, thank you for sharing your story with the podcast. If anybody listening wanted to know more about No Birthday Left Behind, or get in contact with you to see how they might help, what are ways that they can do that?
Well, the simplest way is to go to our website, nobirthdayleftbehind.com, and we have all of our contact information there as well.
Great.
Yeah. We encourage people. There's a volunteer form on the website. We sadly lose volunteers as often as we gain them. We have people reaching out from across the country. But what we really need is dedicated volunteers because we train people and we lose them. So fill out that form, reach out, help take this message further and further. And there's also an inbox if you want to share, if people have questions.
There's also info at nobirthdayleftbehind.com if they want to reach out through email, which is also indicated on our website as well.
Okay, awesome. Tanvi, when's your next birthday? Are you doing anything special for it?
Well, it's my 21st, so hopefully it's special.
At that. Yeah, that's great. Well, I hope it's a great birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This episode was hosted and produced by Ricky B. I'm Gary Williams. Andrew Cavett is the editor. Rachel Prey is the print editor in charge of our newsletter. Scheduling and pre-interviews by Sarah S. Additional reporting by Mark Emmons. Music provided by Soundstripe.com. You can find everything we make, the podcast, our newsletter, and all of our social media links at thefremontpodcast.com. Be sure to subscribe wherever it is that you listen so you don't miss an episode. And if you would, please leave a review on iTunes. Your reviews help other people find this podcast. Join us next week on the Fremont Podcast.
Because there's so much homelessness in the Bay Area in general, there's also a lot of kids that are a part of it that don't really choose to be in this situation.
This is a Muggins Media Podcast.